It's interesting in that we've probably got 2 or 3 different cycles going on. I mean, there has been a long-term cycle. If we think back to the days of BBC ITV, then we had BBC Two, and then we had Channel 4, then we had Sky with maybe 20 channels, then Sky became 200, 2000, and then we went into the streaming marketplace. So there's been those big changes which have been accelerating. So what we're seeing is, as I said, probably 2 or 3 different cycles in terms of time across the business, and currently the big one is as the streaming companies decide, they found very clearly that SVOD is not sustainable in all cases on its own. There are too many players in the market. I think 2 years ago we were all talking about the streaming wars. I think we're now talking about the streaming survival, and that will be in terms of how do they generate enough subscription revenue, or ARPU. Originally it was with multiple packages. Now it's with subscription and a hybrid advertising tier. It's never going to make a massive amount of revenue. It will be a complementary amount. We have to remember, for example, in the UK, Sky, actually was only reading their annual report the other day, Sky's revenue, only 10% of it is advertising. And I think this is sometimes something we in media agencies and our clients tend to forget, is that as well as being advertising platforms, many of the broadcasters, streaming companies, and indeed in total cases a lot of the platforms, they have been advertising side, whereas the broadcasters and the SVOD companies are content providers, and we have that conflict between what's going on in the broadcast stroke streaming world and what's going on in the social media world. But it overlaps, because YouTube, as we know, do have some premium channels. Facebook have promoted Watch very heavily in the past, and there are other social media based on pure video, such as TikTok, who might think themselves to be a total video or a premium video environment. So it's that those cycles have been of a continuous fragmentation, followed by changes of business models, and now people trying maybe to become television when maybe they're not, and some of the television companies moving into the digital world, which quite frankly they should have been doing over a number of years, and I welcome that. But from a consumer's point of view, and I think this is the important point, the consumer actually isn't aware of those little buckets that we in the industry create. They watch premium video and they watch the content that they want to. Sometimes they're willing to pay for it. Sometimes they have a value exchange, which I think we all understand and know has been under continuous threat over many years. I think the latest Ipsos survey showed that advertising executives had fallen just below estate agents, with only MPs underneath them. That's actually quite worrying. And for me, having been in the business 45 years, it's something that I feel very strongly about. We need to get that trust back between consumers and brand advertising.
The arrival of advertising support in the SVOD services comes at the same time that a lot of the broadcast and VOD services reach scale and bring out a whole array of new digital tricks. It also comes at the same time as some change that we're seeing in the tech landscape itself. Mm-hmm. Do all of these options for advertising excite a buyer? Do they lead to complication?
Wow, that's a hell of a question. I think there are some interesting thoughts here. One of the main issues we have in the market is the declining linear viewing, which means that we don't have the reach that in previous years we could accumulate, particularly for time-sensitive advertisers such as retailers. Therefore, incremental reach is important. I would question whether the SVOD companies are yet at the full scale. I think there's still some way to go with them as they add the advertising tiers. But one of the reasons they're certainly Netflix and Disney Plus are adding the advertising tiers, is because they were plateauing out in pure subscription terms. What they offer is, particularly against 1634, 1644 age groups, access to non-linear TV viewers. Now, I know there was a lot of debate about where the disposable income lies these days, but those are still important audiences, certainly in terms of brand equity. And what we're getting towards now is we're getting a replacement of that missing reach, but probably the biggest issue we've got is because of the fragmentation in the marketplace. we cannot manage the frequency. And that has been the bête noire of the digital platforms over the last 10 years, is the high frequency of ads appearing. And the problem we get from that, and it's an issue whether we are looking at linear channels, the niche channels, Dave, Yesterday, Alibi, those sorts of channels, or we're looking at some of the we're looking at some of the AVOD channels like Pluto, Tubi, etc., is the repetition of the same ads. Because they're targeting against advanced audiences, those smaller audiences aren't receiving broadcast in inverted commas ads, they're receiving targeted ads, and therefore they're seeing the same ads. And that high frequency leads to, well, one, creative wear out, which we've known about for many, many years, but it also adds to that issue of advertising bombardment, advertising intervention, etc., ruining what is or should be a pleasant viewing experience.
What's the solution?
The solution is you reduce the amount of inventory you sell, but commercially that is totally unacceptable. So the vendors, whether they be broadcasters or whether they be aggregators or marketplace managers or individual companies within the digital world, they have to strike the right balance between their advertising dollars, pounds, euros, and the loss, as I indicated, of credibility with an audience that in some cases are, quite frankly, fed up with it. So they put in place ad blocking, which was a problem 4 or 5 years ago. It's never gone away. It's just maybe dropped down in the hierarchy as things like attention and other issues came up the agenda. It remains a problem, particularly with that 16-34 age group who don't watch linear television, who are online, are bombarded, and therefore perhaps feel they want to go to areas where they might spend some money, although during a time of economic constraint that's going to be more and more difficult. So it's actually a rock and a hard place, and it's that fine balance to make sure that it's survivable. And probably the biggest issue there are too many vendors in the marketplace. My view is there will be consolidation. I don't think there is any choice in it. I think one of the things that worries me is the consolidation will start in the US, and some of the US, certainly network companies and studios, will get even bigger. We have Bob Iger gone back to Disney, a man I have enormous respect for as a senior executive, and I think he will be doing some very interesting things there. We have Amazon biding their time with Prime. They've been test and learning. They haven't really launched anything. I think one of the issues we'll find there is they will be bidding for significant sports rights. It's how Rupert Murdoch started Sky, if we remember back all those years ago, and that's why Sky actually managed to make it, was because they had sports. So all in all, it's going to be a highly competitive marketplace, and it will be positive entrepreneurs that survive out of that and will have the success. The danger is that the American conglomerates are quite frankly vast, and indeed the two major tech companies, with a third in TikTok growing very rapidly, also are much higher in terms of their capitalisation than any European local broadcaster, ITV included.